In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products?
In many ways of each case, I feel that my project develops and challenges conventions of an actual media product. First off, the title of my film is the most obvious convention of my film, which does not challenge the thriller genre. Surveillance is the name I chose for my film, as it illustrates the main subject without giving too much of the plot, much like the film Taken. I also feel that the effects that I use for my fonts do not challenge any conventions because of blur is a clever effect, but very common effect used in the thriller film industry. However, the style of font I feel challenges conventions due to the sophistication that it brings to my media product, as it's more subtle yet still creates the tension needed for my introduction. Locations are a very big part in creating a successful film, and I feel that my main location was successful for creating a scary atmosphere due to the dark lighting and the cave-like ambience. The reason for choosing the war tunnels was that I thought it would be a fairly conventional place for a hostage to be held, as it is extremely mysterious. The special effects which I used while making my product is the reason why it is borderline between two genres, thriller and sci-fi. This is due to the projections which I created using After Effects, making my film slightly futuristic. The projections show another character to illustrate a conversation about a bank transfer. This also shows more about the plot of my film. A larger organisation hiring someone to kidnap a girl. I chose to keep the costumes of my actress fairly simple in order to make it more relatable and therefore more realistic. For my actor, I began with the simple black clothing, but I felt that it was necessary to hide his face in order to create more tension. And in this sense, the costumes of my actress and actor follow the typical conventions of a thriller/horror film. For example, in Friday the 13th, the killer has that big scary mask which creates tension, and I didn't want to necessarily copy, but in the same way create the right type of tension by the viewer not being able to see his face, and I did feel that my film worked well in that sense. The way that a film is edited is what defines whether it is well made or not, and because my film is a thriller, during the start of my research at the start of the year, I looked at how films such as Seven were made and edited, and from this research I found a technique which I thought worked well with the introduction of my film.
How does your media product represent particular social groups?
In order to evaluate how social groups were represented in my media product, I compared my female character to other similar character roles of films of the same genre. My main female part is similar to the role of Maggie Grace in Taken, due to two of them being of similar age, and therefore it is likely that my film would attract a similar audience to that of Taken. The similar traits of innocence and naivety are other factors for why these two roles are similar. And it's stereotypical for teenage girls to be playing this part because of their vulnerability in this type of situation. However, my actress differs from the role played by Dakota Fanning in Man on Fire. This is because Megan is older, but they are similar in the sense that they are both female, illustrating that sex and age are important components that contribute to the role of a character. A factor which differs my actress to Gina Rivera from Kiss the Girls is ethnicity. However, this does not differ the role. It also appears that Gina Rivera is older than that of my main actress.
What kind of media institution might distribute your product and why?
My film, being a sci-fi thriller genre, sort of, is a film that would be distributed by a production company which would make films similar to that of my genre. For example, Universal, which is the company that I would have thought would make a kind of film like mine, represented the films The Bourne trilogy and the latest Matt Damon film, which is in the cinema at the moment, called The Adjustment Bureau. And due to my film having a similar genre to that of the films I've just talked about, they would most likely have the same production company, which is why I thought Universal would be the company that would produce my film.
Who would be the audience for your media product?
Right, so here is someone who I think would be the person for my target audience. So Jake, tell me about yourself.
I'm 16, I like football and I love playing tennis. Also have a part-time job at HMV.
Right, good. What is your preferred taste in music?
My favourite genre of music has to be hip-hop/rap.
Oh,
For example, my favourite artist at the moment is Eminem.
yeah, oh, that's pretty good. What type of clothes do you wear, and where would you most likely buy these clothes?
At the moment, I really like my Abercrombie and Fitch or my Hollister, as you can see here. Or I sometimes like shopping on Burton though.
Ah, nice. What aspects do you see? Oh, sorry, that's wrong. What do you expect to see in a general thriller, and do you think that the introduction to my film holds these aspects?
In a thriller, I prefer to see settings which contain dark and creepy atmospheres, which in the end are well worth the money. They also have to have music that has to complement the setting, or to create a fantastic atmosphere. For example,
Do you feel like my film has that? My introduction?
yeah, I do actually. This is why I like Taken so much at the moment. Watched it quite a few times.
Nice. So, what do you think of my location?
I think your location fits the genre perfectly, as the location is fantastic. It creates a smashing atmosphere. Also, I love the fact that the so-called killer is wearing a mask, as it makes it more exciting to find out who he is at the end, really.
Oh, very good. Thank you for your time.
Not an issue.
How did you attract your audience? In order to attract my audience, I used YouTube annotations, which highlighted the ways in which my film opening links with other similar films. My annotations refer to genre conventions, use of music, similarities with other movies, and what I have identified as the unique selling point of my film introduction. As I wanted to attract a similar audience to that of Taken and other films of this genre, I followed the typical conventions that made these types of films successful, such as my kidnapper wearing a mask in order to hide his true identity, which is something that occurs very often in this genre. As well as this, music became a huge factor in my film introduction, which helped to attract my audience. What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product?
During the editing phase of my project, I used 3 softwares: Final Cut, Soundtrack Pro, and After Effects, in order to edit, input and create sound effects, and make special effects which I needed for my film, such as the part where there's the projections in the cave. I use After Effects for that. In order to film my introduction, I used this Canon 7D. This was extremely helpful because with that camera, because it's really good, I can change aperture, allowing different amounts of light coming in, so coming into the lens, which means that when it was dark in the cave I could make it a bit lighter so you could see better. And so in that sense it was a very helpful camera. I also used a 50mm lens, 1.4, which gave a really good depth of field, so in parts of the film there's quite a lot of depth of field parts which I used because of this lens, because it's such good depth of field. And I also used the 15-85 mm, which meant that I had like more of a landscape shot in a tunnel when you can see all of the cave. I used the 15-85 for that because it means you can see a lot more in the shot rather than just close-ups, which is what the 50mm is good for. And it was the depth of field from using the 50mm which I felt gave my film some sophistication.
Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learned in the progression from it to your full product?
Looking back at my preliminary task, I found it difficult to compare the two, especially the narrative, because my product doesn't really have a narrative between 2 specific people, which in that sense disregards the 180 rule in my film. However, I feel that my editing and my continuity has improved, in the sense that if I find problems with my footage I can quite easily fix it by the way I edit it. Although I edited my preliminary task with Final Cut, I feel that my improvement with this software has resulted in a better quality of my final project. My final project also differs from my preliminary task due to the use of After Effects, which developed my film a lot because I was capable of making projections of the bank transfer between Mr. Big and the kidnapper, which is what I learned in the editing phase of my project.